Covered earlier the attacks going on in Iran by Israel. And then, of course, when we were talking, there was a counterattack by Iran. I just want to point out that attacks here in the U.S. are coming. Terror attacks here in the U.S. are coming, given Biden has let in pretty much 20 million illegals and has not vetted pretty much 99% of them. There are terrorist cells here in the U.S. That is a known fact. And we will have an attack here. And more than likely, we will have one sooner rather than later, given what's happening in the Middle East. Just mark my words. Keep yourself on guard and pay attention. Specifically, the Al-Qaeda leader has now called for assassination of Trump's cabinet, the VP, Musk, and Trump himself. Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch leaders urging fellow Islamists in the U.S. to assassinate President Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, and other U.S. leaders, calling them the scum of the earth and its greatest criminals. I call upon every Muslim in the infidel, criminal, and arrogant U.S. I am saying to all of them, revenge, revenge. Al-Awlaki stressed that it doesn't matter whether the terrorists are Arab, American, or another descent. Which matters is that it should be Muslims whose prophet is Muhammad. He correctly noted there are 4.5 million Muslims in the United States currently. He went on to caution his followers to hatch their assassination plots in secret. Do not consult anyone about killing infidel Americans before specifying who should be targeted. Go after the scum of the earth and its greatest criminals. This is Trump, his vice president. This is Elon Musk, his advisor. These are his Secretary of State and his Secretary of Defense. Al-Awlaki encouraged his followers in the United States to also go after their families and all those who have any ties or are close to the politicians in the White House. Keep your head on a swivel. Pay attention, guys. Let's not allow this to happen, not just for Trump's sake and the families of those who are working in the White House, but also for our sakes. Because I guarantee you, if this happens on our soil, there will be a swell of sentiment that will want revenge. And I don't blame them. I would be one of them. I don't want to be a war. I don't want to see another war. You don't want to see another war. Let's not allow the elites to use our anger and channel it toward another war that they're going to profit from. Pay attention, guys. Keep your heads on a swivel. All right, another one where it's okay if we do it, it's not okay if you do it. The Georgia Supreme Court strikes down 4 election rules approved by the state election board. So this wasn't just some namby-pamby stuff they did during COVID where they're like, okay, yeah, you can mail in your ballot. We can send it in 2 weeks after the fact. You don't have to sign it. There's no discretionary limitation as far as how you're sending it. There's no validation. We're just going to take in everything. Whether they're illegals or non-illegals voting, we don't care. Just vote. So the Georgia Supreme Court voted unanimously earlier this week to invalidate 4 elections board rules in Georgia that were enacted in the run-up to the 2024 general election. The rules related to stricter controls over counting and dropping off ballots and verifying the integrity of election results. Who would ever want that? Who would want to validate that those elections were secure and fair and correct? I wonder why. To pass rules to implement and enforce the election code, but it cannot go beyond the change or contradict the statutory scheme, Chief Justice Nels Peterson wrote in a 96-page opinion. Listen to this. The General Assembly gave the board more rule-making powers, including authority to define standards as to what constitutes a vote and what votes will be counted as a vote, he wrote. The board also gave authority to make rules and regulations to assure uniformity in practices and proceedings of superintendents, registrars, deputy registrars, poll officers, and other officials, as well as the legality, purity in all primaries and elections. Well, it sounds like that they were doing just what they were enacted to do. But of course, since it was to validate and make sure illegals weren't going to vote, they rescinded it. What a surprise. Get them off the bench. They are frauds. Getting back to China and their death by 1,000 cuts, specifically looking again at fentanyl. I know we covered this, but just again showing more validation, not just where I'm throwing this out there. Communist China has a long-term plan to weaken the U.S. by fueling the fentanyl crisis, according to the FBI Director Kash Patel. one thing is clear is that China is not making a ton of money with its precursor exports. So in other words, they're just throwing them out there. How do I, in my opinion, kneecap the United States of America, our largest adversary? Patel stated. Patel said that the long-term plan is to take out generations of young men and women who could have taken jobs such as a police officer, soldier, teacher. That's why they, China, are doing when you wipe out tens of thousands of Americans a year. It's a long-term plan for them. Again, China doesn't think like we do. They are much more intelligent than our elites or our upper crust or whoever's running this stuff actually give them. China, they look at things on a 100-year, 50-year schedule. We barely look at a 6-month to a year or even 4-year schedule if we're lucky. They are playing the long game. We are playing checkers. They are playing chess. In March, Trump imposed an additional 20% on Chinese imported goods over China's role in facilitating the product of fentanyl. This goes back to the 55% tariffs. That 20% and that 55% is baked into that. In January, 2 pharmaceutical companies in India, Rexuter Chemicals and Atheos Chemicals, were charged with criminal conspiracy to distribute and import fentanyl precursor chemicals into the U.S., Mexico, and elsewhere. So it's not just the Chinese that are doing it. In May, federal authorities arrested 16 individuals, seized more than 400 kilos of fentanyl across 5 states, and the largest fentanyl bust in DEA history. Because again, the DOJ is now trying to get stuff done. 3 Chinese nationals and a Chinese-based company were charged in May for allegedly importing pill presses and other equipment for making lethal fake pills in the U.S. What they mean by lethal fake pills is that if you've never had fentanyl before and you take it for the first time, it generally leads to an overdose if you don't get Narcan in your system pronto. I promise the president, the American people, we will not have kids dying of fentanyl overdoses in our streets. Just give me a little more time. We have a massive operation going on around the world on this. Kudos to Patel. I hope they shut this down. And again, China basically showed Trump that they are not going to stop doing this. This is a long-term strategy. They're hoping to continue this to outlast Trump till the next administration, probably one that is more conducive to Biden's mentality of just not caring or not being there, being checked out, and allowing to continue what they're doing to slowly kneecap us and slow us down, hamstring us, death by 1,000 cuts. In the fun and games of rainbow frolics, a Johns Hopkins professor condemns medical malpractice that led to his granddaughter's transition. Dr. Henry Mosel of Johns Hopkins University condemned the gender ideology movement, citing the lived experience of his granddaughter who fell victim to what he described as medical malpractice. Mosley, a physician epidemiologist and professor emeritus at Johns Hopkins of Bloomberg School of Public Health, first realized the dangers of gender ideology when his 16-year-old granddaughter, Prisha, told him she was a transgender. Mosley's career largely focused on family, planning and preventing abortions. Controversy was nothing new to him, but he was not keen on accepting his granddaughter's transgender diagnosis. In fairness to him, he sounded like one of the good ones. I called her a counselor who completely put me off. She said I didn't know what I was thinking about. Mosley stated to IW Features, my son, Jonathan Mosley, who's a physician, also spoke with the counselor, but there was nothing we could do to persuade her that Prisha was mentally ill. Here's the key. According to Mosley, Prisha's counselor was adamant that her distress stemmed from her family not affirming her trans identity. Despite this, Mosley observed that Prisha was self-harming, attempting suicide, and having all kinds of serious health problems. This goes back to the fact that pre and post transition, the suicidality rates don't change. This is a mental illness. Come on, leftoid, make it make sense. You can't do it. If you insert something into supposed treatment of somebody and it doesn't change the outcome, you did not impact whatever the cause was. The cause is mental, not a physical characteristic, because you cannot change biology. Gender ideology is like a cult or religion, he stated. Like many trans-identifying individuals, Prisha broke away from her family, integrated in the transgender community in Florida, so a lot of affirmation. During this time, Mosley kept in communication with her and said he would support her in any way he could. When she finally broke up with her partner and decided to leave Florida, we helped her. She found a job in Michigan, and we rented a truck and helped her make the move. Again, got out of the situation, got away from all of that drama, that integration, that complete indoctrination into that cult she was living in. And while living in Michigan, Prisha chose to detransition. Good on her. And since then, she's become an advocate, bringing awareness to the dangers of gender ideology. And how do you think the left treat her for that? Prisha has since filed a lawsuit against the medical professionals who pushed her to transition, as have many other detransitioners. This is key. They did this to somebody who has means and a family with money. So they're going to reap the whirlwind with this one, and there needs to be more people who have the means and money to fight this. Fight them where it hurts, which is money and ideology. Tear down their ideology with facts and fight them with money by suing their pants off. Good on this family. Her mental illness was not relieved at all by the transition, Mosley stated. She was told that you're really a male, and if you just transition, life is going to be good. Well, of course, none of her mental health symptoms were alleviated by living as a male. Being a man is tough. Sorry, woke feminists who pretend they want to be men. You can't do it. You ain't got the balls. He now urges lawmakers to ban gender-affirming care. He also published an op-ed in the Baltimore Sun where he says gender ideology should be kept out of schools. Amen. Unfortunately, Mosley said he has not been able to have an impact on Johns Hopkins, where he says his medical records at the university have been changed from saying sex to sex assigned at birth. I emailed the CEO of the medical school with a little information about biology, and he never responded. Yeah, when you come with facts, leftists run. Mosley referred to what happened to his granddaughter and others as medical malpractice. Indeed. Pray for his family. Pray for other families out there going through this. I am thankful that his granddaughter was able to be recovered from that. David Hogg ain't brown or woke enough. He ain't going to make it. David Hogg of 1270 SAT fame, who was elected the DNC vice chair earlier this year, just saw his job get yanked away. Yoink! As the DNC voted overwhelmingly to hold a new election for the position. I wonder why. In a 294-99 vote that concluded Wednesday, DNC members agreed to move forward with redoing the contest earlier this year as a white male, Hogg, and another Democrat, Michael Kenyatte, are vice chairs. Whoopsie. In April, Hogg's group, Leaders We Deserve, revealed it would spend $20 million to primary out-of-touch, ineffective incumbent House Democrats. The DNC chairman, Ken Martin, said he gave Hogg an ultimatum recalling, as I've said to him, if you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but not as an officer of the DNC because your job is to be a neutral arbiter. I'm sorry. Can somebody please get Bernie Sanders on the phone? Can we please get the last election pulled up? Because I believe Bernie Sanders got thrown out in 2020 and 2024, forgive me, but I'm pretty sure that Kamala and Biden just kind of got picked. In fact, when Biden stepped down, they didn't even have open primaries. So you leftists, what do you call that? What do you guys call that? Fascism? Bueller? I didn't think you had anything. Kaylin Free of Oklahoma, this is where it gets good, an activist who had aimed for the position of the DNC vice chair claimed the DNC broke its rules of gender diversity, notice that gender diversity, and handed Hogg his seat. In May, the DNC Credentials Committee then agreed to hold new elections. So, this woman got upset Hogg got chosen, she pushed, she won. Guess who they voted for? A black man. You can't make this up. Guess what now? She's still demanding that they have another election because, again, it's a man. So they're probably going to have to follow their own rules and elect either a black woman, or maybe if Hogg just changes to pretend to be a woman for a little bit, he can win again. Who knows? I'd love to see it. It makes me laugh. Thomas Massie, another libertarian I'd love to have a talk with. I like him. I don't like him. He's an idealist. But anyway, he has done a lot of good, and here's him doing a great thing. He submitted a bill titled the Gold Reserve Transparency Act of 2025, mandating the Comptroller General to conduct and publish a full audit of the nation's gold reserves. Fantastic, Massie. The bill would require full disclosure of all gold-related transactions such as leases, loans, sales, and swaps over the past 50 years. Because again, all that gold that's been locked up, we don't know what's been done to it. Has it been sold, traded, used, rented? We do not know. And it would be great to know that. The last full audit of Fort Knox's gold holdings was in September 1974. What do you think's been going on for the last 50 years? Not only that, when the audit was performed, They have stated that the audit conducted more than 50 years ago did not compare serial numbers against records, examine the gold bars for purity, or perform a final tally of the gold bullion. They just kind of opened the doors like, yep, looks good. Good enough for me. So it would be fantastic if this got passed, because maybe we could actually see what kind of mound of poopy caca that we're sitting on. Hopefully it's something a little more than nothing. Domi arigato. So Tesla claims that Robotaxis will be ready later this month. June 22nd is what they're aiming for. More than likely they'll miss it. More than likely it'll be a month or two away. But regardless, it's going to be awesome when it does happen. Again, he's stating the exact date when this happens is going to be tentative. Sorry, Waymo. I don't know if y'all saw LA, but the Waymo cars all got burnt down. So Musk was like, yeah, we ain't doing LA. We're going to go somewhere where law and order still exists. Also in May, Musk told CNBC he'd expect there to be more than 1 million Teslas on the road in the United States with full self-driving capability by the end of the year. Think about that, guys. 1 million self-driving. All you Ubers and Lyft drivers out there, who do you think you're going to be competing against? Those people who have bought Teslas, who have full self-driving capability, and click a little button that says, hey, why don't you go rent out my Tesla as an Uber? It's coming, guys. More automation, taking jobs away. Hate to see it. It's going to be an interesting few years, because as more and more automation happens, more and more jobs are going to be vanishing. But hopefully we can find new ways to make money, right? I mean, that's what we do, adapt and survive. Well, this is Mouthy signing off, guys. Dig you later.